And we are here for the penultimate Acolyte discussion show. We are talking about episode 7, Choice. That is where myself and a guest go through each episode of the Acolyte, which is obviously shown 100 years before the Skywalker saga. And we're getting right near the end. We're getting there. But before we delve into the episode itself, it's time for my guest. So my guest is Thomas Rochester of Reckless Rebellion. And I always have to have Thomas on every single time I do a Star Wars watch because his passion is just so infectious. So Thomas, how are you doing and how have you found Acolyte before, when episode 6 finished? Where were you there before delving into episode 7? Have you found it?
Well, hello there, everyone. I'm knackered as all hell. I went from English to Australian real fast, and now I'm American. Who knew? I've been enjoying Acolyte. Period. Episode 5 is one of the greatest Star Wars TV episodes of all time.
100%.
If not, it might be my favorite. If I had to go watch one episode, it's this because it is tied to almost nothing else.
Agreed.
And it's simply for what we get in that episode. Whereas, World Between Worlds episode, the Ahsoka, the past of it all, it's tied to Clone Wars, it's tied to this, it's tied to the prequels. This is just, hey man, here's a really awesome fight choreography scene that is on par with the prequels. And here's 12 different fighting styles in one fight scene. So have fun dissecting. Overall, I'm I don't know. I feel like so far the show's been a 7 on consistency. I give it a C for sure. I love Star Wars, and I'm the type of Star Wars fan that looks for things inside Star Wars to make me love it more.
Agreed.
Even when it's bad. We were just talking off recording about our Star Wars rankings, and I'm like, The Phantom Menace is my least favorite film, but there are moments in there which are iconic, which are great, which I love, which I can throw on, and that makes me love that movie more than if it wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've been doing with The Acolyte. I've seen a lot of criticism, and I chuckled because obviously there's the toxic side of the fandom that is just shitting on everything. This week we've got positives, the fight within the positive side of the fandom, people who've been this, and now all of a sudden people are arguing if the Jedi are bad. And I'm like, I mean, from a certain point of view, which is what this episode's meant to make you do, is pick a side of viewpoint from your own personal life. I mean, that's art. But I've also seen a lot of people criticizing the writing, the acting, the pacing, cinematography. I've heard a lot of the acting is awful except for these 2 actors. And I'm like, I don't see that. I don't see it that way. I think the acting in some places leaves more to be desired. But overall, I think when people say the acting isn't great, is they're just not a fan of how people are saying the words. And I think they're missing the moments where you're being shown what a character is feeling instead of being told, despite them being upset, which makes it really awkward for me when I hear them say, I'm being told a lot and not shown. That is a weird, and that's a fine line, between show and tell. So I get it. I would say that I'm pretty in the middle on the show. I'm not saying the show is mid because I'm really enjoying it. For me, it might be in the top half of Star Wars TV live action shows. Just because I'm enjoying what we've gotten for what it is. And if I added my expectations for what I wanted it to be, it'd probably be near the bottom, if not the bottom, because I had such high expectations. I wanted this to be as good, if not better than Andor. I wanted it to be Andor with lightsabers, and it's not living up to that expectation, but what I'm getting, I'm thoroughly enjoying. And I am trying to take my expectations, slaughter them like Qimir did, and then just take it for what it is. So I usually watch an episode once, and I'm like, all right, that's the episode. And last night I was pretty pissed off, like I have been a couple other times in this season. And I rewatched it this morning, and I was like, okay, I'm a lot less pissed off. I see what they wanted to do, and I think they executed what they wanted to do as perfectly as they could. I just don't like it. And that is where I think people who are artists and in the filmmaking industry, I think that's where we should be in assessing art. It's like, I see what they were going for. I think they did it to the best of their abilities. I don't like it. You know, I don't think we need to tear anything down like some people, looking at you, toxic fandom, or, you know, only focus on the things we don't like, you know, but we also shouldn't focus on the things we only focus on the positives. I feel like lately on my podcast, Reckless Rebellion, I'm focusing a lot more on the positives because everybody else is covering the negatives. Yeah. And I'm just like, I gotta like put out some balance. And, you know, Jack Hughes and I, we both like to be devil's advocates. So we will devil's advocate for the so far outside of where we really feel. I think we're a lot similar in our ranking, like how we would rate this show, but we are more on the opposite sides of that ranking for sure.
Well, I was going to say, with the acting element, I want to say, see, I agree with you because I've seen the things online where people are criticizing a lot of elements of it. And I think that there are things to be criticized, which I agree with.
Yeah.
One of them is the pacing and not the editing of the show itself, but the way the show's been put together. I said it, I did a solo pod last week and I was like, this should have been 6 episodes. It should have been the premiere should have been the premiere, 1 episode. The Witches one should have been the second one, and then it should have been Night and Day should have been 1 episode because the bit episode 5 when the stranger or Qimir like goes mental and kills basically everyone. It's one of the greatest scenes in all of Star Wars. It's phenomenal. Like some people weren't as much of a fan of it, whatever. That's fine. If the action of Star Wars isn't what draws you in, that's okay. But the action was incredibly well done. It was clever. It was unique. The Cortosis element was brilliant as well. And that Manny Jacinto did so much of that himself. And we know how great Daphne Keane is as well from Logan and other stuff. So it's like they all really gave it their all, and it all really works so well. But the problem is that was so amazing. But it made the episode before it weaker and the episode after it weaker last week. And last week, the problem is there was just so much filler. It was just like, oh, the ship broke down and for no reason. And then it kind of is okay again. And you're like, but this didn't add anything. This just spent more time going, what's that flashback? We're going to tell you. No, we're not. We're going to tell you. No, we're not. Soul's going to reveal. And it's been such a build up for me that I don't think the payoff, I think is quite anticlimactic. And I think the problem is with me with this show, is the expectations. And I know I'm like you, I'm like a Star Wars apologist in a lot of ways. It's very rare I consume any Star Wars content and I'm like, I don't even know how people could like this. There's a few books I've read and I'm like, this is not for me. I haven't got anything out of this. Lords of the Sith was on recently. Nothing against Paul S. Kemp. The writing was fine, but I really didn't enjoy that book at all. And I love dark side stuff. It just didn't land for me. And so, but people like it. People love it. And I really liked hearing people talk about what they loved about it. And Acolyte for you and I, because we're such High Republic readers of the comics and the books, and we're such big fans, and they were like, High Republic this, High Republic this. And it's like, you've had 5 references in passing to the High Republic and 1 character who's kind of fallen flat and keeps appearing and disappearing arbitrarily and is not really being utilized the character they were. They just feel like a new character. And you've got all this weird stuff. I'm talking about Vernestra. And it's like, the problem is that this is, I like the fact that they could kill characters and all of those elements and they had a cool idea. But my biggest issue is not the acting and it's in part the writing, but it's the character development of the twins. Is that I don't really have a connection to them, and I'm trying, and in this episode it helped a bit, but really it's just everyone else I think is kind of outshining them. Even Indara in this episode really was really, really interesting. Yeah. All of them have got something about them that makes them kind of interesting in a certain way. Maybe Bar Kelnaka because he was kind of shafted in the first half. But like with this, I just feel like the whole thing is all about these 2 characters. And with like the prequels and with the original trilogy especially, and with the sequel trilogy, even if you don't like certain characters, there's an ensemble that kind of works together. That's how a lot of these shows, Andor, the characters are so incredible, like Nemec and things like that. And I find the characters here, they're all pretty good. Soul and the Strangers Qimir are definitely the pinnacles, and I really like Anastasia. I found her really interesting. But they're kind of like building to the central characters who are just not that interesting. Whereas Anakin, conversely, even though he was a bit of a whiny bitch and stuff, he was, like in especially Attack of the Clones, he had such darkness to him. He had depth. There was something to him and you know where he was going. And with this, I'm just like, I don't have any real care whether or not Osha or May are good or bad or what they do. I'm far more interested in the characters who've loosely adopted them's journey. And that for me is the biggest falling of my show, of the show for me.
That's a really good point, because I'm in the same boat. Like, I don't really. I in the beginning, I'm trying to remember how I felt like May had all personality and Osha had none.
Agreed.
I rewatched, and I've said this on recording, so it's there, and I'm gonna say it here. I was wrong. I go back and look, and Osha does have personality when she's not around the Jedi. And
yes,
and because I on Friday, yeah, on Friday I rewatched all 6 episodes with my girlfriend. Because she hadn't seen any of it, and she, I wanted to watch it with her and get her reaction, and she loved it. She's like, "Wow, this is good."
I bet it's way better in one go,
dude. So much better in one go. Because like we ended 4, and she goes, "Are you serious? That's how they end it?" And I go, "Aren't you happy you don't have to wait a week?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry for you." I was like, "Yeah, I was pissed." I was like, "I've been waiting for this moment, and then you give it to me, and you give me just enough to think we're gonna keep going, and then you don't." Mm-hmm. Like, I still argue that when he ignites the lightsaber right in front of Osha, perfect cliffhanger moment right there. Cut it and be like, "Whoa, okay, like what happens next?" We know we're getting a fight, but you don't get cut out in the middle of a fight. I'm not going down that. We're going down this path now. Rewatching it, I noticed that Osha does have a lot of personality, and the only person she has personality with, after a certain point is
Jackie. Yeah.
It's Jackie, and it felt forced and rushed, and now I see she is forcing it, but it's meant to be like, hey man, we're similar, and she's trying to build that connection, and Jackie is just naturally feeling connected to her because they both shared a master, right? They have enough in common. So I caught on to that. Episode 4, which a lot of people hate, and it's probably near the bottom for me, is risen up because I recognized May and the nuance of her acting in that sequence, which again still leads me to feel like there's more emotion and more depth with May than there is Osha, as an adult especially. Because she, the minute that the sister gets brought up, Osha gets brought up, she's like, "Oh my God," like, I don't even remember I think she brings it up, actually, now that I think about it. And the way, she's look down, look up, look down, look up, like, should I say this? It's crazy that Osha's still alive and blah, 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 blah. And they have that discussion, and the whole time she's like not really making eye contact with him, even when he looks at her. And it's very like, oh, you are so not certain. You have no confidence in what you're about to do. Like, you are all the way waffling. Holy crap. Whoa. And so I was like, wow, I totally see what she's about to do now, and I appreciate it more. And I've been saying on my pod, if you go back and rewatch it, I feel like you're going to find a lot more nuance, because you know where it goes. Now you're able to pick up on the cues that you totally missed and thought were weird, or just didn't see because you were looking at something else. And I think that so far it has done that. Same with rewatching this week's episode. I hated it. I don't want to say hated it, but I watched it and went, I'm going to be the only one that is like not hating this episode. I can already see it. Like, I'm the only one who won't hate every little thing about this episode. And to me, going to bed, I was like, the coolest thing to me was, what the hell was Anastasia turning into a smoke monster? There it is, from Lost, a smoke monster for. But when it comes to May and Osha specifically, I've been on the train that like Osha doesn't have personality around the Jedi. Like, in general, I thought she didn't have personality because she was meant to be a dark sider, right? And now I'm like, no, she has personality. She just doesn't feel like she's allowed to show it with the Jedi for some reason. Last week, when you say filler, were you just talking about the soul on the ship stuff?
Yeah, I thought that the Stranger and Mesa, the Stranger and Osha stuff was amazing. Loved the dialogue, loved the imagery, loved the fact that it was very similar to Arcto, but different. And the whole stuff, the way it connects with that, imagery-wise, I was like, amazing. But the problem is, again, it was brought down by, it was basically 10, 15 minutes of an episode, and the other half was like, we need something to do here, but we can't do too much. So it was just like May running around the ship pointlessly, kind of just vaguely interacting with stuff, like, oh, it's Pip, and then no real mention, or it like just wiped his mind, I think, and then just didn't result in anything, and because Sol didn't see her do that. And then it's like, well, did Basil notice her? Maybe. Oh, he definitely did, but did Sol notice because of that? And I'm like, why is there so much waffling? It's literally just, they should have got on the ship, he should have said like one line of dialogue and she should have said something back and he'd have gone, wait a minute, now my mind's clearer. Like after he went and had that cry, which I liked, he should have then gone, oh, now that I'm clear, had a breath, and then he goes, then you can hear him kind of sense calm, just that nice whoosh, force feeling, and then you see Osha and there's like a dissonant note for a split second, and he's like, and he opens his eyes like, you're not Osha, you're May. Yeah. If he'd have done that, that would have been immediate. It would have made his character more interesting, and then we could have focused a bit more time on Osha or moved it on in any way. But it was just this thing with Basil on the ship, and I'm like, yeah, he's like an Ewok beaver thing, whatever. Like, I like cute animals in. I like cute animals in Star Wars. I love the Porgs. I'll defend the Porgs to the end of the earth. I love them. I think they're great because they add the environment that Luke is in. They add a bit of life. They add a bit of noise to it. So there's something around him in Ahch-To. But with Basil, it's like, here's a goofy, weird little character. What does he do? He kind of is a tracker, and also he seems to kind of know the difference between Osha and May better than anyone by smell. Yeah. And that's literally it. And you know, but neither of these things have any real impact on the story. You don't need to have a weird little beaver character there as a tracker, because the Jedi, many of them, including Quinlan Vos, are known to be good trackers. So you're like, just have one of them be quite good at tracking, and then cut the soul stuff, and you've shaved it. But I don't blame Leslie Headland, and I don't blame the team making it necessarily. I think there is an issue, but I feel like it's more, unfortunately, and I'm not a Disney hater, I think it's Disney said, we need 8 episodes. And they were like, we've really got 5. I think if they did like 5 or 6 quite nicely tight, longer episodes, for me, that would make it all flow together a bit more.
So for me, I'm not quite sure if it's, we need 8 episodes, or it's more like, you're not allowed to go over this time limit. So because I'm under the impression that they can't have episodes really more than 30 minutes, because this week was listed as 40 something. And then it's actually like about 34 minutes of actual footage when you take out the credits and you take out the intro stuff before the cold open. And that's what I've noticed a lot in this series. And they were talking about time constraints. One of the writers is like, oh yeah, because basically we had to find the perfect cut for episode 4 and figure out where to shut it off, because we kind of had time constraints that we had to work within. And my mindset is, dude, it's streaming. Do whatever you want. HBO is out here killing it week after week after week. They just cut down House of the Dragon from 10 episodes to 8. That has made a lot of fans worry. That's actually made them worry, because now they're like, well, we just lost 2 hours of character development, and now we have to speed up things, and we feel like that's not going to benefit the story. In this case, for Acolyte, I feel like they're putting a limit. They have chains on, and those chains are dragging them to the bottom of the Force depths, because I feel like episode 4 and 5 should have been one episode. I feel like episode 6 should have been longer, so we got to see May live in Osha's shoes a little longer, and maybe come to the realization of like, wow, like she got the hug from Soul, and you can tell she's like, oh my God, what? Because you kind of have to imagine she hasn't had a hug since she was 8 years old. After this week, you imagine that, of course. Then you get more time with Qimir and Osha. I don't know what the fuck's going on with Vern, which is just
a waste of character. And I've never, it's not even like it's a cameo character, because it's such a niche. Even people who read the High Republic books, you don't really know her if you read the middle grade novels and 2 of the young adult novels. And that's
Is it someone else has been like, yeah, they're this, but I haven't read those books. I just can't remember who that was. I know you've read them all.
Yeah, I've read them all, including I love the middle grade books. I think they're fantastic. I think in phase 1 they're better than the young adult novels. I'm partway through Defy the Storm now, which has Vernestra Rwoh in it. I finished Escape from Valo and Eye of Darkness, but I haven't started Temptation of the Force. But Vern is just like, it's so frustrating, and it's like, I've spoken to other people who've been on this podcast, and from knowledge, none of them have any knowledge of Vernestra Rwoh. And even Megan, she's read the first High Republic book and a few other bits and pieces. And no one really, even people in groups I'm in, are like, oh, I've heard Vernestra is a High Republic character. Where is she? And it's like, she makes like a cameo in like 2 comics, or like is briefly in 2 comics. She's in like the High Republic 2021 High Republic Adventures Annual, which is by IDW or Dark Horse. It's quite hard to get. I've got it, but it's like a little story of her and Stellan. And then she's in the younger books. And it's like, it's cool, but then what have you brought in with this really niche character? Basically nothing. And it's like, but why don't put Coyote Mundi in it? What, put literally anyone there. Do you know what I mean? Like,
God, I hate that character.
What, Coyote Mundi?
Yeah, Dickhead Mundi, hate him.
Yeah, he sucks ass. He's just like the Megan calls him Turnip Head. But it's just,
that's good. That's more PG.
He's just he does suck. But like with Vernestra, like, did you have the same kind of feelings with her? Like,
yeah, when they started, you know, like the way that they marketed her in terms of like, oh, this is who she is. It's, you know, in the line of like, well, it's been 100 years and like that changes you. I was already kind of expecting her to be a little bit more darker, closed off because of, and this was like, I think it was Light in Life.
Yeah,
right?
The short story. Yeah, where she thinks she's lost her Padawan and stuff. That's dark.
Exactly.
It's great.
Like that, exactly. It's dark. And I'm like, okay, this is really going to change her. I've been of the mindset, and I've been I will stand on the anthill. The Jedi started falling with Starlight Beacon because of the amount of grief it caused the Order, and then all of the nameless stuff that happened from there. I would argue maybe they started falling at the end of phase 2 when they decided to hide the Shrikara and who they really are, the nameless, the Force-Eaters. So it's like...
And that was Yoda as well. It was like Yoda and, what was it, Creighton's son. They were like, we should not tell anyone about these magic Force-Eaters. And then 200 years, 150 years later, I think it is, then they go, oh, they're back and murdering people and no one knows anything about it. Why is that? And then Yoda has to come back after being like hidden away on a planet he crash landed on for like a year. And he's like, oh, by the way, you know this thing that's terrorizing everyone? I know a little bit about it, didn't tell anyone.
Yeah. Oh, not just that. Oh, I know who to bring in. Aslan Rel. Oh, you mean the guy who fell to the dark side? He didn't necessarily fall to the dark side. It's like, what the frack are we doing, man? Come on, Yoda. Get together. Get your shit.
So you can make a mean pastry for the younglings in the Dark Horse comics. But aside from that, you've been pretty crap in the High Republic. Yaddle's where it's at. She's fantastic.
Oh, God. Yaddle's the best, man. I'll never forget the sad moment of realizing that I called her death in Tales of the Jedi. That was, and I just like threw it out. I was like, wouldn't it be crazy if they do this? It looks like they're in the same location based on the lighting. And they're like, that would never happen. And then it happened. And I was like, oh, I've never been more upset to be right, actually. Because I just listened to like her first appearance in, I think, phase 2 when that had come out. But rewinding it back to the Vern of it all, I'm definitely not. I'm at least able to recognize that 100 years is a long fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see somebody who's chipper and, I mean, honestly, we'll just make it a much shorter amount of time. Stellan, Elzar, and Avar, they, you know, they reference how they used to be as children. And there's a couple of lines in Temptation of the Force that so that I listened to that book. You know, it came out the week after Acolyte premiered, so I listened to that, and there's a line in there that made me go, "Oh, you know, they're right." Like over this very short amount of time, they became totally different humans and jaded, and that really lent into me accepting this version of Vernestra as being different. However, I mean, she is suspect, man. I'm very intrigued to see where it goes. Last week showing Qimir's back, and then later on when he explains about it, and Osha's like, was it your Jedi Master? And the very next scene is her using a whip. Super duper duper sus. You know what I'm saying? And then the whole point of like, why didn't you tell me this girl could have lived? And he's like, nobody could survive that fall. And it's like, oh, did she know the truth? Does she know the truth? Does she know the truth? Something tells me she knows the truth. And if she knows the truth, does that mean her Padawan could have learned the truth, who could have been Qimir? But I don't want to go down that path because that's not really dealing with this week's episode. But yeah, I definitely am like bumping against. I just want to know why Vern is in this show whatsoever.
Yeah, just period.
Yeah, period. It could have been any other character, right? I do enjoy the fact, as someone who knows her character, like, oh, she's from the High Republic, and people are like, why would I read the High Republic if she's like this? I'm like, trust me, she's not. She's 16. She's really fun. She's very spunky.
But don't you think it spoils it a bit now, though? Because we know she's in no real danger.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. That's what I felt when they announced it at Celebration months back. Like,
yeah, and I was there in the room and I watched the trailer and they were like, oh, yeah. And I was like, I'm happy, but now I know we're going into phase 3. She's going to be completely fine. And she now can live 100 years. Like, I know they didn't confirm the ages of Miri Allen, so that's fine. But I was just like, oh, cool. I was like, of all the characters, I thought they were going to go like, a Wookiee Jedi. I thought it was going to be like Buriaga or something. And I'd be like, that would also have been a spoiler at the time. But I'd have been like, that would have been like, oh shit. But Vernestra, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what you do with her. And they're like, she's got a light whip. Yeah. That's in it for like 3 seconds. I know they're going to use it later for something, but you're like,
God, I hope so, because they've spoiled that in the trailer. And
they spoiled that in the trailer, the Force push at the end of episode 4 in the trailer, and it was just like all these things. The fact they waited so long for the Jedi to fight the stranger Qimir, even though we were like, well, we know it's going to happen at some point because it's one of the focal points of the whole trailer, and you wait till see episode 5 of 8 before showing that. And then episode 6 of a light whip being shown. And we're now going into the final episode. And that's the only thing we've seen of the light whip is cut a big bug in half. And you're like, why put that in the trailer as such a not a tiny little deep cut? Most people who see a light whip would go, oh, cool. They're not going to be like, holy fuck, oh my God. Like, unless you see it in action, you're not going to be interested. So they spoiled it by putting it in the trailer. And then also we're now going into the final episode, we still haven't seen it again.
Yeah, exactly. Like if they had just done that one little... If they did not put it in the trailer, I would have enjoyed it more. I was like, I saw it and was like, oh my God, it looks so cool in the trailer. And then 30 seconds later, I went, why the fuck is that in the trailer?
Yeah.
And I sent it to a bunch of High Republic people on Twitter and I was like, they're like, oh my God, it looks so good. And then I don't even remember how long it was that they responded, but I responded back and go, yeah, I'm mad it's in the trailer because like this is something you should save. This should feel like a moment. And even in the series, it doesn't feel like a moment. But what pisses me off more is we saw all but maybe 15 frames of that entire sequence.
Yeah.
And it's like, yay! I'm so excited. Woo-hoo. I'm hoping that she is in some way, I don't want to say related. That's not the quite right word, but she is associated with Qimir / the stranger in some way. If she was his master when he was a Jedi a really long time ago, sus wording, or if they fought at a different point and, he just never used his lightsaber kind of thing. Because all he did was say, oh, it's somebody who threw me away. Like I was trash, basically. Osha, is the one who infers, oh, you're Jedi Master? And he doesn't answer. He just gives a look like, yeah, I want you to think that. So it's like, oh, okay. Maybe he was her Padawan. Maybe he just fought her at some point, and because she seems to know what's really going on. It's like something that tipped the scales. Like, oh my God, something that tipped the scales. Like, I fought something like this before. Even Soul's like, his line of, I seen something familiar. It felt like there's more history than just episode 2. When he meets the guy, like, that's the only part. Like, yeah, in a shop when he was doing great. Oh, hello. When he was just, Jason Mendoza-ing the thing up. You know what I'm saying?
I love The Good Place. I rewatched it literally a month or so ago. I finished rewatching it. I was like, this is when I first watched it. I was like, this is an amazing show. And then I watched it this time. I'm like, this is probably my favorite show ever. It's just phenomenal. But I want to ask, so we'll get into the episode itself, which is, choice. What did you think about them doing another entire episode of a flashback?
For those of you that can't see, which is all of you, I'm rolling my eyes because it was the one thing I was hoping they wouldn't do this week because I felt like we didn't need a full flashback episode. And I stand by it. I feel like we did it. Or if we did, it didn't need to be 40 bloody minutes. Well, 34 minutes, whatever, of actual footage. But because I feel, there were moments where I'm watching, I'm like, okay, cool, come on with it. I don't need to see him stalking the children. I already got the gist of that. Like having him walk up, I feel like they could have truncated some of the stuff a lot more. Now, what we did get from the other side, I really enjoyed, you know? I just feel like the opening of them, I think this is like a 2.5 minute opening, could have been 30 seconds or not at all. Just open up with a little bit less because I don't think they talk about, I'm trying to remember. No, they talk about the virgins before he finds the children. So, you know, we could have got to that point first. It could have got to the, you know, we could have just jumped straight to that nighttime scene without doing prior to that. So that would have saved some time, you know? I mean, it looked beautiful. It was shot beautiful. I loved that as a filmmaker. But as a fan, I'm like, we didn't need that. You could have saved 5 minutes there. Then there's another part where like he's stalking the children and you're seeing him, you know, here and here and here and here. And I felt like they could have cut out a little bit more of that because we don't need all of that. Like watching him do the one, the always one, but never two or something like that. I don't remember the line. Born is one, but always one, but born is two. That their little saying, like I didn't feel like we needed to see most of that again. So there's like little moments that I feel like you could have cut out a little bit more to focus on. Here's what the Jedi were doing. You know, I enjoy some of the scenes of like seeing a new scene, but watching him like inside this facility when, you know, the creaking sound happened and they send the kids away. Watching that from that perspective was really cool because I'm like, oh wow,
okay, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, he saw that. That's interesting. And then he walks away and it creaks, and I go, oh, he was the one who was making it creak. Okay, that's cool. Like I enjoy seeing that Rashomon situation, but overall, I was hoping we would get it bookended by by present day stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
like that happened and then we get to say, and that's what happened. And she's like, I know because of, and then she lashes out at him or something.
And not even that, but you know, it would have been cool if he tells this whole story and Osha takes the mask off and goes, I can't believe he lied to me. And then leave it at that. That's it. Leave it at that and just move on to next week. Because now I'm of the mindset that, oh, okay, he's going to tell May. Way jumping ahead here, guys. He's going to tell May, and because they have that special twin connection, Osha's going to be able to hear that through May, because we now know they're basically the same dude to an extent. So that was a long tangent. I didn't want it to be a full flashback episode. I'm a little annoyed about that fact. I feel like it's wasting time we don't have.
Yeah.
And it makes me more upset now that 4 and 5 weren't jumboed together, because now we have half of the episodes with one word title and the other half with, I'm assuming, split titles. And it's just like, for why? You know?
Yeah, I thought like when this episode was called Choice, I thought, oh, is that going to be Osha and May making a choice? It's a flashback. It's going to be half the flashback, and then we're going to see them both finding out the flashback, what their responses are to that, and then the finale is going to be their actions from knowing that information. But they're like, no, this is just a whole flashback episode, because you get halfway through and you're like, this hasn't gone anywhere yet. And I'm like you, because it's frustrating, because Acolyte, I think one of the reasons people criticize the writing is the issue is there's certain concepts that are touched upon in Acolyte, and a lot of us sort of Star Wars fans who read a lot of the books and are more into Star Wars than the average Star Wars viewer. We're like, oh, dark side stuff. Oh, a witch's coven. Maybe the Night Sisters are relation, and they mention it, and you're like, these are all cool threads. How do they make this, being split into two? I want to know about that. What's a Force Virgins? Is that similar to what a dyad could be considered? Like, I want them to. They keep going, we know about this lore stuff, and you're going, okay, that's when you were marketing Acolyte. You were saying, it's, you were basically hinting, if you like the High Republic, you're like this. So I want to know, how do all the Jedi perceive the Force? Are we going to get to see how they perceive the Force in their minds? What are we going to do? Are we going to get to see a lightsaber crystal being bled? And all these little things that I thought were being hinted at. Yeah. And now we're just like, we keep spending loads of time having inconsequential conversations, and interactions, like the whole Soul and May thing in the whole last episode was just such a waste. And you're like, you've got good information here. They're kind of doing what George Lucas did in some parts, where you go, here's a sprinkling of really interesting lore that you're just not going to touch upon again, but let's have a really long discussion on something that could have been said in 2 sentences. And it's just really uneven. And that's my annoyance with this, because it feels very prequels-y in a lot of respects, where the best parts of the prequels, for the most part, it's the action mixed with pretty much 2 major emotional scenes, I'd say. I'd say when Anakin kills the Sand People and sees his mum die in episode 2, and then when you've got in episode 3, the You and My Brother Anakin stuff in Order 66. Like, those are moments in the prequels that have a big emotional beat. Qui-Gon dying, maybe as well. But you've got, in each prequel, you've got an emotional thing and a lot of action to back it up. And in Acolyte, I don't know if it's the format or what, but you've got the action scene in the middle is phenomenal. Absolutely incredible. Again, one of the best. I've just rewatched it like immediately after watching it. I did a podcast and then just watched it again. And I'm like, that's good. Some of the characters are a bit kind of, silly and weird, like Yord, Fandir, and Jackie Don. They're cool. I like that element of the prequels. But then you're also keeping the stuff that you haven't learned from the main issues with the prequels 20 plus years ago, which is really clunky dialogue that's completely inconsequential when you've got really interesting concepts. And they're the things that really frustrate me. I'm like, you've got the connected, like I'm being optimistic in a lot of ways. I'm trying to be, because I'm like, I really want to love this. Yep. And you've got breadcrumbs to love it, but you keep misfiring on things that feel quite obvious. That's my issue with it. There's so much promise here, so much potential, and it's just not quite landed.
Yeah, and then there's moments where they need a line to explain something, and then it's just not there. And then it's like, dude, like, and it's crazy, like the Torbin of it all. I've seen a lot of people, let me rephrase that. I have friends who specifically go, I don't understand why he killed himself. Like, that doesn't even make sense to me based on what he did. And we've gone back and forth, and we agree that the plot does not show us him feeling guilty at all about
He should have killed Anastasia. That would have made sense as well, just to clarify, in my opinion. But sorry to interject.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I look at it from my point of view as someone who's incredibly hard on himself and beats the shit out of himself for no fucking reason. And that is, if I were in his shoes, they were only there because he made the choice. I love this week's episode title. It makes the most sense for this episode, both inside the universe and in a meta way, because they made a lot of choices in the script writing process, and the episode being a whole flashback, that's a choice. Which I do mean slightly negative on that, I'll be honest. But he made the choice to hop on a speeder and race there as soon as he found out the kids might be born of a virgins. He thinks they're virgins. Nobody else seems to think they are the virgins. They think they were created with the virgins, manipulated virgins to make life, which is the exact opposite of the Force creating life and creating a virgins in a human. They were a human created of a virgins, which is, not Anakin. It's like the inverse, if you will. And so he races there. Soul chases him, who's the worst person to be chasing him at this point, right? We're aware of that. And so his choice leads every Jedi there, because they weren't going to be going there anyway, because the council said no. Even though Osha wanted to go. But that's okay. Doesn't matter. They're there now. Everything that happens after that, he's going to blame himself for. That's how I view it. That makes sense to me. I don't feel like I have to do a lot of jumping through hoops. That's just like how I personally would look at it. So him feeling guilty over all of these innocent people being dead because he couldn't get over his desire to go home, especially because even when he was there, he didn't want to fight. That was not his plan. And he didn't kill the mother. He didn't kill Mother Anastasia, So he can't be held accountable for Soul's stuff. But that doesn't mean he doesn't feel guilty about it, because Soul was only there because he was there. So that's how I view it. And all it could he was the catalyst. All it would take to convey that guilt to the audience is him going to his master and be like, I'm sorry, master, this is all my fault. If I had just listened. She's like, no. Like, I feel guilty. No, we should not feel guilt. And then just make him bury his feelings. Those 2 lines, perfect. Because that's my thing, is he's burying his feelings. He was told to bury his feelings earlier in the episode, which led to them bursting out. then if he admits having, issues with guilt and they tell him to bury it, then that it kind of leads to the 16-year road. I mean, 6 years after this moment, he stops talking to people. And I assume that's when he took the Barash vow.
Yeah, because it was a few years after, because I think he'd been in the Barash vow for around 10, 11 years.
10 years, yeah, is what they said. So
I agree. It's weird with the Torbin thing, because I feel, I see where you're coming from, but I feel like, yeah, it's just, I agree with your latter point more so. It's just not conveyed enough that he does feel guilt, and he should be like, I feel like after he should be like, it's all my fault. They're all dead because of me. It's all my fault. Like even that, like just you say some acknowledgement, but he doesn't acknowledge it. And what he did wasn't too bad. And I think that Sol killing Mother Anastasia was a bit too. It felt a bit like he wasn't. I know he was kind of nervous and he was like in a certain mindset and things, and he was trying to overly protect. And when she did that, he's like, I don't know what you're doing. But I suppose that when he saw Coral do it and turn Kawanaka, he was like, not again. So I can kind of get that, but it felt like, my issue with this episode more so, it's annoying that it's a flashback, but I could have accepted it more if this is the penultimate episode, which often is where a lot of the biggest punches are in series, because it's normally the biggest punches in the penultimate, and then the finale is the repercussions and one more little kind of hit often. And it's like, all of us have been going, I don't want the flashback episode to be right near the end. I want it to be sooner. We can all kind of see where it's going. Like, it's no real surprise. And then I was thinking, okay, we're finally here. We're going to see like a massacre. And I'm like interested to see how that's going to play out, what caused all this guilt. And then you're like, okay, so there's not really a massacre. There's Sol kills the mother. The explosions seemingly do or do not kill people, and the explosions seemingly we think is caused by May, but that's kind of unclear. And then all the witches like die immediately, over nothing. And I'm like, but so they basically killed Sol. They killed Anastasia. They fought Kawanaka, which was cool, but it's all right. And then after that, you're like, okay, they're all dead, and you're like, but I didn't feel like anyone killed them necessarily. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one killed them. They all just seemed to die. Yeah.
And I look at it as, in terms of the witches dying, the severing of a psychic connection. I know it's such a trope that I just can't remember where it's from, can kill you if you don't do it properly. So to me, I was like, oh, they're whatever. And then the more I thought about it last night, I rewatched it this morning, and you see the moment that they all die on Endara's face. Because it's just like, I saved him. Oh my God, I just killed every single one of them. And it's like, whoa, that's rough. Because the power of one, the power of two, the power of many, it took the power of many to do that. And if they were connected to Coral in her smoke form or whatever, and she banished it from his mind and it had nowhere to go, you have to imagine they also had nowhere to go, and they've lost their body. Because if they weren't in control of their body kind of thing, then if they're sent out of that, then there's really nowhere for them to go. That's me stretching.
But Indira didn't really react, unfortunately. That was my issue. If she'd have gone in the room and gone, oh my God, what have I done? If she'd have gone into that room and gone, like, and saw the bodies, and she was like, oh God, like, I knew dark magic was dangerous, but I didn't realize it could do this. Or just an acknowledgement, or she just stops and looks over them and just shakes her head. But there's just like, there's a moment where she's like, oh God. And then you watch them fall over and stuff. And then you move on and never mention it again. And you're like, what? So, and I was like, are they dead?
Yeah. And to me, I think her not mentioning it. So I got it like from her face. I'm like, oh, they just all died. Like, I've seen that face on a Jedi. Fuck, we saw it on Osha earlier this week. Or earlier this series when Jeki gets killed. So it's the Rey when Leia dies. So it's the same look. It's a visual language thing. So I took it as that. But then from that moment, we don't see her again until they're on the ship. And she grabs Sol and like shakes him. Because in terms of it all started, Torbin's the catalyst, right? But then Sol started the fight. And because Sol started the fight, Kelnaka got possessed. And because he got possessed, Indara had to free his mind. And because she freed his mind, all the witches died. So it's a domino effect of unfortunate events. but she's mad because the most preceding thing would have been Soul killing the mother. And so when she grabs him by the chest and they start doing hands thing, and Torbin's like, Master. It's a really good Tommen impression now that I think about it. And then it's like, what do we he's like, I need to tell the council and take accountability. And she's like, are you serious? It's like, no, we have to cover this up. And I find it weird that she's saying, you're going to put that girl through that. And it's like, but I feel like you don't want them to know about what you did. Which in essence, I don't blame her. I don't think she knew that would happen. Right. But at the same time, her not wanting it to be talked about is where I'm like, interesting. Like, you don't want them to know that you screwed up and you're the reason they all died. Like, you are the direct reason that they all died by freeing Kalnaka's mind. So I totally get it. And honestly, once again, yeah, another line would have been great there. Even if it was like, look what your actions have done, Soul. So you can't make another bad decision. Like, exactly.
She goes, do you think I wanted to do that? You think I had to choose between Kalnaka and 20 lives? You think if she said that would have been, that would have been a lot of weight. If she said, I had to make the decision between one Jedi and 20 other living beings. Do you know how that felt in that moment? If she said that, I'd have been like, Jesus. Because I think Indara was the star of the episode, to be honest. I thought the emotional range of Soul was very good, but I think Indara really stood up. I felt like, I love Carrie-Anne Moss, obviously Matrix, excellent, and also Memento she's really good in. And I felt like when she's in the first episode, I was like, oh, she's really cool, badass fighter, and then she dies, and you're like, she's gone. And then she's in the flashback a bit, and you're like, she's all right. And then you get her in this, and you're like, oh, she's really stepping up. She's clearly an amazing fighter. She's very wise. She's clearly the most senior, the most experienced there. She's the one kind of holding people together. And she the entire time is telling Soul, you're going past the boundary. You shouldn't be doing this. What are you wasting? All these kinds of things. And it's just like, why, with all those elements that are quite well thought out, why couldn't we have got we got that emotional part of her losing her shit a little bit with Soul, and so we're like, why couldn't we have just had a bit more of her? Again, this episode and in part this series seems to keep focusing on, in my opinion, the wrong things. In a sense of just some of the dialogue, I'm like, I want more emotional beats. I want the Jedi to be emotional clearly about something, and as you say, have to then repress it. Have to then push it down, and that's what's caused the bubbling of the surface when Osha and May have come back. That's what's unbalanced them all. That's what I want. But I want to ask you, do you think Kalnaka is a bigger waste of space than Vernestra out of universe? In universe, I'm sure he's great. But the promos for him, the promises of another Wookiee Jedi, knowing how great Arkoff is in the High Republic manga, knowing how great Buriyaga is in the High Republic, one of the best characters, he's awesome, and like how cool Wookiees are in general. And then we were like, Kalnaka's here. And the whole series, I was like, I can't wait to see him unleash. And then he dies off screen, which was the worst decision in the show, in my opinion. And then you go, oh, we're going to get to see him fight. But not really, because he's possessed by someone, which is not actually seeing him fight. You've basically Hawkeyed Avengers assembled him, which is make him completely, everything you see him do of any substantial things is not him. So we've really seen a shell of a Wookiee vaguely growling a bit, fixing the odd thing, which is just what Chewbacca does, and then dying off screen and having someone puppeteer him fight. And you're like, what was the point? It feels, unfortunately, and I hate making this comparison because I do think the majority of creators in all the Star Wars stuff have the best intentions, but that felt like a Disney exec said, we need a Wookiee Jedi in this. And then they went, we don't really have space for him in the story. And they went, yeah, but think about how much hype it will bring. And they've kind of gone, okay, here's a really complex, interesting idea. And they've gone, no, let's take that out, let's take that out, let's take that out. And now what we've left with is we've got Vernestta Rwoh and we've got the Wookiee Kalnaka, who both seem like characters that are only about a quarter formed. Mm-hmm. And why couldn't they have been one character? I know that the Kalnaka dying off screen bit was apparently important, even though it seemed inconsequential after immediately what happened. But like, I feel like that could have been a connection, and then that would have made, if Vernestra was there the whole time and she was avoiding the situation and trying to cover it up because she's the last person there, you could have taken Kanaka out of every scene he was in, and it would genuinely have made no difference. And that's so upsetting because I was so excited about it. And I didn't know if you felt the same or if you've got more of a defense on him.
No, I like him. He's a Wookiee Jedi.
I like him.
That is the maximum of the positive, I got to say. I do think he's a waste. Especially when he was killed off screen. I read that the writer they had a huge fight scene, but because of time constraints, Disney Plus. Looking at you, Bob. I'm blaming Bob Chapek for all these issues because he was involved with the creation of this series and et cetera, et cetera. So looking at you, Shapey. So because of time constraints and the flow of the episode, they're like, well, we just couldn't do it. That would have been an amazing way to end episode 4. Right? The bad guy kills
constraints. Sorry to interject, but but there's no rush. There's no new content coming out of Disney. Why do they need it now? Why couldn't they have waited 2 months? What rush?
No,
if anything, when it came out, it's worse because Phase 3 is not over. They could have left it a bit later. That would have been the perfect thing.
Dude, I don't even mean those time constraints. I mean, like, this, you have to have, this length of an episode, this length of an episode.
And that's what you said earlier, where there isn't one because there's streaming, and with Mando it was up and down. So why here?
Yeah, exactly. And because she's Leslie Headland's even mentioned, like, like when you're trying to do everything in like 30-minute time spans, it's like, but why the frack is it 30 minutes? I feel like she had 8 episode plan, and they limited her to about 30 minutes each episode. Mm-hmm. And she's had, I can't remember if they actually even filmed the fight scene or not. Because I feel like they did choreograph it. Because I remember Junta's talking about fighting as Kanaka, which I guess now that I think about it, he fought this week, but whatever. All right, retracting that thought. I don't think they did film it. I think they had it written, and it was like, well, that's going to be too long of an episode. So, yeah, I do think he's a waste. I actually haven't talked about, the only thing I got to say for this week about Kanaka is like, poor dude. He was just trying to do the right thing and got possessed, and that sucks. Rip.
Yeah. He was the biggest. I mean, he's a character which should have been the fan favorite, but had even less personality than Vernestra,
which is saying a lot.
And you're like, this is not right, because you think of like Chewie is such a colorful character because of all mannerisms, and Junus can do Wookiees. He played Chewbacca, in a lot of the sequels and stuff. Chewie's great. He's never really bad, and other Wookiees I've seen, they can emote. There's ways of making it. Characters that are non-verbal. Star Wars has a great way of making them work. R2-D2, a great example. So it's not like it's because he doesn't speak. It's just because it's like with Torbin. I don't really feel like I know them very well. I think I know Indara a bit, but really like Torbin, I feel like I know more about Jecki than Torbin, and I really don't know much about Jecki. Do you know what I mean? It's there feels like, I think you're right. I feel like Disney may have said, right, you've got 100 characters and, 8 hours. And they went, cool, here's the story 90% done. And then they went, oh, do we say that? Actually, sorry, we mean we've got 120 characters, but you've only got about, 5.5 hours. And they're like, but we've done all these threads of things that aren't going anywhere. And we've killed all the characters off in the first half of the season. Yeah, well, most of it. So you're like, where? And that was the problem with the Kanaka fight, because there's no dramatic tension because we know empirically everyone's going to be fine. The only thing we were thinking is, oh, I wonder how Torbin's going to get his eye. And it was the most boring as a scratch by a Wookiee. And you're like,
we didn't even see it happen. It was just like cuts to his face, and I'm like, oh, which should have been a dramatic moment because Wookiees don't like to unleash their claws, I read.
And it was a thin scratch. It wasn't like an eye gouged out like you would have thought it would be. It was like it was less than Samuel Jackson's. Samuel L. Jackson's eye scratch is way more realistic. And why?
It's a fucking cat, dude.
Listen,
a flirkin. Even it was a flirkin. Mother flirkin. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, we can talk about. You want to talk about? I want to talk about that fire really quick.
Yeah. Because if I've missed something, because I feel like I might have blinked and missed because I saw fire spreading a bit and then outside things were exploding.
Yeah, so I had to talk to a couple of engineers today. In case you don't know, I'm an engineer in my day job. So I went and talked to a couple different guys about this. So and I did some of my own research because I'm like, how did the explosion happen? How could a fire travel like that? Unless there's something we don't know that we get told next week. It's like, the fire. Oh no. Like if Qimir goes, oh, the explosion. That wasn't me. Sucks to be you, losers. But based on our real world, I know people bitch about fire in space, but whatever. It's George's world. But based on our real world, fire can travel through electrical wiring.
Right.
So we see it very specifically. I feel like they focused on that for a reason. And I resaw it this morning and was just like, man, it's got to be that reason. Like that's how the fire traveled. I looked into it. The fire, it's an oil fire. Remind everyone, it's an oil lamp, which awesome. It's in Star Wars. It's burning at a higher temperature than other, flammables might. So we see it sparking, if I'm not mistaken, the electricity sparking on that section. So in essence, it can melt the insulation. If the insulation is flammable, it can travel the wire via that.
Right.
If the if the wires are too close and it melts the insulation, it can cause a spark, and the spark can travel all the way through the wires. And if it goes to something flammable, it'll start a flammable in that section. So fire can travel via electrical wires, and that's the only thing I got is how it's possible.
That was a long road.
Yeah, trust me.
Journey to a short road.
I talked to a lot of different people. All right. I did a lot of research. I probably put in about an hour-ish of work today trying to figure this out. Like it took me about 15, 20 minutes of looking through it, talking to someone who used to work in HVAC. And then I talked to our fire professional, and that was probably the briefest conversation. I had him talking. He's like, okay. And I was like, cool. Do you want to know? I asked him all these questions, and he's like, okay. I was like, would you like to know what this is about? And he goes, yeah, I'm actually really curious. And I was like, Star Wars. And he goes, oh my God.
I just think that with that idea, again, all we kind of needed was a shot of it. Like you saw May kind of react to the fire getting a bit worse. But what should have happened straight after that is you see sparks going down like a wire, going like, and she goes, oh no, and looking down the other side, and you see and then you see her like run in one direction, and then you see the sparks just go into a room that has some barrels of flame symbols on or whatever, and just ignite something, and then go boom, boom, and then the third boom can be from outside. Easily done. And again, it's all these things where, and I'm guilty of it in a lot of Star Wars films and some of the other live action series where I fall into this rhythm of unfortunately becoming a Star Wars apologist. And there's a lot of stuff which I think is valid. I think there's a lot of criticisms of the prequels, but they do get solved. A lot of them in the Clone Wars or flushed out a bit more. There are some unjust criticisms, I think, of a lot of Star Wars content, especially the sequels, but there are some pretty large flaws in them as well, just like there are with pretty much all the Star Wars films. But the thing is with this, it's just like, certain things are so well thought out and other things really aren't. And we're having to really for certain really standard things to make sense. Like the explosion is like the catalyst of this whole story in a lot of ways. Like the fire and the explosion are the two biggest parts of this episode and episode 3 and cause the distraction, the ripple effect, the worry, the panic. And they didn't really make it make that much sense. Like you kind of have to think about it to make it make sense. When it's an explosion, it's like one of the most simple things in film. Yeah. And they've somehow not made it just really quick and easy to understand and coherent. And that's kind of the thing where I think you lightly touched upon it at the start of the episode, which is kind of like, there's certain episodes of Star Wars when you're a Star Wars fan and you try and see the positives where you watch it and you go, this isn't a great episode. I can feel that a lot of people aren't going to like it. Mm-hmm. And I felt with the initial flashback one, I actually really liked that episode. I thought it was one of the stronger ones of the first half. I thought it was cool with lore. It was interesting. I really liked Mother Anastasia. I liked a lot of that element, but I can see why people didn't like it as much, but I think it was actually quite good. But then we get an episode like this and I'm like, this answers the questions I had, but the answers are really almost more boring than I thought they could have been. They were kind of they were predictable and boring. And the only thing that wasn't predictable was Kalnaka turning, which actually weakened it all. And the witch is dying just immediately. So I'm like, the only surprise in this episode was actually worse than I thought it was. And I would just wanted to brutally watch some Jedi. I thought Torbin was basically going to make a mistake, as in wrongly ignite his blade and kill someone, basically what Sol did. At the wrong time, and he was going to blame himself, and then Kalnaka was going to have to go nuts because they like attack him or he gets wounded or something and he goes full rage. And that's why I thought we were going to watch, but no, it was just like the witches all just, they like the Vogons in Hitchhiker's Guide when they just like, I'm sad. They all just fall back and die. And then you're like, that we've spent an hour and probably an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes in this flashback. And there's about 40 minutes maybe of stuff
that is important. Like that is, and I would say good. I agree. The fire thing, I literally had to go talk to professional engineers to figure out if this was even plausible.
Yeah.
So it is plausible. I still don't like it.
Yeah.
One of we've talked about my two biggest bad things about this episode. Misplaced in the season, could have been shorter. I've added some few more since I made this list, which we've talked about as well. But the other one is I was way super freaking wrong about the Sith being at the Witch Mountain. I felt like it made sense. Now, that can get explained away by a line from Qimir. I give that at like a 2% probability of even happening. Not even probability, plausibility. 2% plausibility of it even being.
You thought they were going to be involved in the birth kind of thing.
I thought he was going to be involved with the Ascension, There were hooded figures at like behind the mothers when they're facing all of the witches and stuff that we never see. And then in this episode, I see a couple extra people in hoods and I go, it was them all along. It was just the witches. Like that makes this a little sad. And then, I honestly, I knew that Count Akka was going to get turned because I saw it in a trailer. I saw him and Torbin fighting. And so I knew that was going to happen. And I was like, damn it. That's the problem with mother effing trailers and promos.
Well, that's why Tonya, our mutual friend, she doesn't. I normally watch the first, when a trailer drops for a new Star Wars project, I'll watch the one. And unless everyone is talking so much about the second that I literally seeing screenshots like the Vernestta Rwoh whip thing, because everyone was talking about it and I saw the screenshot, I was like, I might as well just watch that bit of the trailer just so I've seen it. But I don't watch all the TV spots and all that kind of jazz because it does just...
Yep, it just spoils everything. So it popped up not too long ago. Somebody today on Twitter posted a whole ass clip from the finale. And I'm like, what are you doing? And I was just scrolling and I was like, what is this? And I was like, oh, it's grainy. And then I started reading stuff and I was like, okay, so what I thought was going to happen is going to happen, at least a small part. I didn't want to know that. The frack, man. I also saw an image that I'm not sure who it is, where it was, if it's even from an episode we've already seen or not. And I'm like, I didn't want to see that. Like, so it's very annoying because then I already have an overactive brain as it is. So you're right. I thought of a lot of great things that could go down on Bryndock in this past episode, and none of them did. None of them happened. And it's not that I'm upset that what I thought of didn't happen. What I'm upset about is that what we got is boring. It is bland. Severing the connect. And I guess what, and again, this is why what they were going for, they did to the best of their ability. I just don't like it. They didn't want the Jedi to actually be considered bad. I've seen people go, the Jedi are actually the bad guys. And I go, what? That's not what this is meant to say. And to be honest, from a certain point of view, you're right. They are the bad guys. From the point of view of the mother and the witches, they are the bad guy. They're the ones who invaded. They're the ones who ignited a lightsaber and started the violence. Yes. And at the end of the day, they're the ones who killed everyone. Yeah. But they didn't do it the way that we thought. And I argue it's not even in self-defense. I think that them killing the witches is an accident. And that is less interesting to me than if they actually dipped into the dark side. That's why I'm confused about the, I've accepted my darkness. What have you done with yours? Like, okay, I thought it was going to be super horrible, but it's not. So I'm still holding out hope that Qimir or a Sith was there on Bryndock doing some stuff. And once the Jedi showed up, they just set fire to they planted bombs and it created explosions and GTFO'd. So he's like, I sent something familiar, because Soul is super weird in this whole episode. He does not seem like his normal self in any other episode. Why is he immediately attached to Osha? Yeah. Specifically Osha. Why not May? Like, what is up with that, dude? Doesn't make sense to me. And I want it to make sense. And so I'm a little annoyed that it doesn't. some of the things that I really enjoyed. Torbin's lightsaber skills, lit.
Amazing.
Wish we'd have gotten more fighting from him. Can we get like him set? And here's the thing that could happen. All right. If they get a season 2, they can do what Loki did, which is go back, add more nuance and things to these characters that we know. And like, oh, here's a little nugget over here that retroactively makes stuff that happens in season 1 better, which was already good. In this case, it'd be the Star Wars method of it was okay, but we made it better. You know,
maybe the Kodaka death. I'd be, I'd understand if they put it in series 2. I'd be like, I'm annoyed you air quote saved it for series 2, you know, ignoring the time constraint stuff. But I'd be like, I'd be up for seeing that.
Yeah. You know, there are a lot of fights that I wish I saw. I want more action. I'm not ashamed to mention it. I want more lightsabers, baby. But that was cool seeing his mind corruption, seeing it from inside his mind. That was cool.
The vision bit I did. I love that.
You know, I don't remember if I said that was my favorite scene or not. I think I called something else my favorite scene, but I can't remember what that was. This was like my favorite genuine sequence and scene from this whole episode because like, it's new. It's different. I love weird force shit, you know?
I love visions.
I love visions.
Well, I love the Vision show is amazing, but I love visions in Star Wars comics, in books, on screen. Rey's weird little random vision in Force Awakens. I'm like, you know, it doesn't really ever get referenced much again, but it's cool. Yeah. I like seeing this visual storytelling being able to be experimental in certain ways and do different things, and the way that her voice was and everything. I agree with you. I love that interaction.
Man, I thought they were gonna kiss.
I did as well. I thought she was gonna like that was what she was kind of alluding to. Like she
with
was
desires, but then she's like, "Say it, ask me," and he's like, "I want to go back to Coruscant," and I was like, "Oh, that's your desire." I'm like, "Dude, that is
weak."
I don't even think it's weak compared to what I thought, but like when you think about homesickness, that is very powerful. So it's like I don't like it. But I see what you're doing, and I appreciate you doing what you did. You know?
Do they say how long they've been gone? Because they say they've been on the planet for 7 weeks. But,
7 weeks.
Do we know if they've been?
Planet. Yeah.
Because I feel like if they'd have said like, she's like, oh, we've only been on the planet for 7 weeks. And he's like, yes, but we've been away from home for like 6 months or like 10 7. I can't remember rotations. Is that a day or is that a month? Or like
it's a day.
If he said like she was like, oh, I've been there for 7 weeks, and he's like, yeah, but we've been away from home for like 27 or something. You'd be like, okay, but it's like 2 months. Oh no, sorry, it's about 3.
It's about 2 months.
Yeah, it's 2 months. I'm getting weirdly enough, my brain was going, how many weeks are in a month? It's about 4. So it's like a month is quite a long time to spend somewhere. Don't get me wrong, but like you're a Jedi who's late teens, maybe early 20s, and you're like. Because Obi-Wan was like 25 in Phantom Menace, so it's like it's pretty standard for Jedi to get that old before graduating. But you're like, all that just to go home, and you're like, it's not. They didn't really in other episodes. Again, some of the dialogue. What is it that he misses about home? He has shown no interest in anything.
It's his attachment to home.
But they don't make that like if he'd have been like, I miss the safety of the Jedi Order, I miss my friends, or I miss the archives.
That's fair.
Or I love just, you know, we've been out here for so long, I'm dirty. I just want to clean my robes and I just want to sit in the meditation gardens and I need a breather because you know, I've got a lot going on or something. That would be fine. But he just doesn't say why he's like, I miss home. Okay, I'm gonna do all this crazy stuff because of it.
Yeah. I completely agree. You know, with Reith Silas, he wanted to go home for the reason. Oh, dude, Twitter is like, this is basically Reith. I got a lot of Anakin vibes from him before his mind corruption because he's just like, oh, like this is stupid. Why are you making me do this? I don't want to be here. Oh, actually, with his lightsaber skills, also got some Anakin vibes. But I just got that vibe, and I was like, oh, okay, like, he wants to go home, like. He's attached to home. He thinks this is stupid. Okay, sure. He's a teenager.
Yeah,
I get that. God, my nephews are teenagers. I totally get that. When I say that one of my nephew's favorite things to say is, and I'm not quite sure I'm being sarcastic about this or not, but I'm bored. The amount of times that I've heard my nephew say I'm bored, and he's 13 in a single day, wild. We're swimming. I'm bored. You know? So like I got that vibe. That is me utilizing my own personal experience. But I'm like, again, they could have explained it better. And I think it was just, we're here to do something. We're not finding it. I don't even know what we're here to do. That's upsetting me. I just want to go home because this is stupid. And then they talk about it, which beautiful transition. First off, I'm just going to read my note. Brindok was lifeless because of the hyperspace disaster 100 years ago.
Yeah, I got a note of that.
That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Leo pointed. I was like, nice. And then later on, actually, when Soul is leaning on this thing, it looks like that's a piece of the hyperspace, looks like a compartment of that. So that was a nice little cool thing. But now it has life due to a believed vergence in the Force, which is described as a concentration of Force energy centered around a location. I wrote down in my notes, Mortis. Great explanation of that. I've seen a lot of people put out tweets and images of stuff, one of which is Octo is believed to have a vergence in the Force, and those vergences in locations are actually steps into the world between worlds to where you can travel between the vergences, and I thought, whoa, that's super cool, man.
Maybe there's one on the planet, the unknown planet that Qimir was on, and maybe that's one of the reasons that Cortosis is found there.
Possibly, yeah, that's a good point. And Exegol was believed to have a vergence in the Force, and it was believed to be a physical vergence where they could climb into or crawl down into, and so they excavated a lot. Here, the vergence, as after rewatching and watching over and over, I think it's the actual pit that they stand around. Like a literal vergence in the Force where that could go down to the planet's core.
With the Ascension ceremony. That's interesting.
Yeah, with the Ascension ceremony. Because they're there and they're like, worshiping it as if it is the vergence. And it might be, it might not be. I don't know. I don't really care either way.
Just to link to that,
vergence is.
Have you read, I think you've read a lot of them, the Star Wars comics. Have you read the 2015 run of Star Wars comics where it says Luke and stuff?
Oh, that's with Luke?
Luke, Leia, Han, between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. So the Skywalker Strikes is the first one. There's a trade paperback. There's a story arc which is called The Ashes of Jeddah. So Luke, Leia, and Han go back to Jeddah, or go to Jeddah after Rogue One. And so Luke looks into one of basically the main hole in Jeddah, because it's like this. It looks a bit like Concord Dawn, where it's all broken and floating. It's a great arc. The 2015 run of Star Wars is quite lumpy. There's a couple of arcs that are cool, but most of it's very missable. But that arc, Ashes of Jeddah, is really cool. And he looks into, I can't remember there's a Force group with him that stare into the core of the planet and basically have dark side visions because of it. Because Force energy kind of comes up from a planet being destroyed, because a planet's a living thing and it's dying. You can kind of look into the darkness of this planet, into the whole of Jeddah. So that concept could work with if the convergence, if the hyperspace thing damaged the planet. That would be really cool. But again, I'm the Acolyte for me, unfortunately, it feels like it's not going hard enough in any direction.
Yeah.
And that's been an issue I've found with a lot of the Filoni-verse, and I where they're trying kind of, a lot of them, to be we're fun for the family, but also for fun Star Wars fans, but also for canon fans and Legends fans, and people who are only watching movies, but also and you're you can't really do it for everyone, and or doesn't aim for everyone, and or lands, because this is a mature, talky Star Wars show with big set pieces on, and a lot of recording in location, actual real lived in places. This is about the people who are suffering because of what's going on with the Empire, and the people that are continuing it in this class struggle basically for power. That works because it's not trying to cater to children or anyone. It goes, look, we're just aiming for the mature things. Some people are going to find it boring. That's okay. We're going to go ham. Mandalorian was kind of its own thing. Ahsoka felt a bit lumpy, but it kind of felt like it knew what it was loosely doing. But some of the other shows were just a bit and this especially is oh, we're really dark because we're going to have this really dark stuff. But also we're kind of going to be light-ish, but we're not really going to make jokes. But we're also not going to explain certain things that well, but also throw in a new couple of concepts. And here's some new characters that don't have really anything to do. And I'm I don't really know where I thought this was meant to be connecting the dots between the High Republic and the prequel era Jedi by going,
Yeah.
this is how the Jedi as a whole fell. And that what it's going to be is showing their failings to catch a dark side user that's escaping them. But what's actually been is like this disjointed tale of a couple of Jedi made a mistake with a dark side coven of witches, basically abducted a child, traumatized another one, and then 16 years later have kind of picked up the trail because the twin of the one they knew about that they thought had died is killing their Jedi who witnessed this event. And you're like, I'm sorry, how is this anything to do with how the show is marketed, of showing how the Jedi Order as a whole? Because in this last episode, obviously there's going to be some sort of line from Ki-Adi-Mundi or someone to be like, it's not the Sith or blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, I thought the whole point of this show was to build off that idea. And it feels like the whole show's actually taken a lot of time to completely remove itself from the rest of the galaxy, in a sense of there's a lot of characters, but it feels like a very closed cast. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying there. In terms of connecting the dots and like show how the Jedi fell, I think they have done it in very subtle ways. You know, and it's the little moments, because, you know, we're still 100 years away from that.
Yeah.
113, we'll say, from the fall of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So it's Jedi making a mistake because they believe they are right and they believe they're doing the right thing. Jedi going outside of the Order's bounds because they believe it's the right thing. That alone is all of the Clone Wars. They go outside what they normally do because they think it's the right thing. They are covering things up. That is another very big thing, which has been happening since the High Republic. So like that's continuing the trend. We'll see where everything goes after this, especially with Vern, because I feel like she's just going to lie to the council at the end of the day.
But to give her credit, with what you're saying there, she does feel like she's doing that. She's one of the ones that's hiding stuff to continue.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's like, I think ultimately that and the politicization of the Jedi that we've seen so far in the show is like, oh yeah, I totally see how they crush themselves. It's wildly different than 100 years ago with, or 130 with the High Republic. They're not necessarily, they have a liaison, you know, which currently is Elzar Mann in Phase 3, and he's not necessarily answering, but they're working together to try and solve the thing. And now it's like they're basically full on with the Republic and the Senate. They now answer to the Senate in a whole different way. And then in the future, they are like two peas in a stupid pod, to the point that the Republic's like, we're going to war. And they're like, well, we will be your generals. And it's like, but why? So, it's very, I'm seeing that, but other than those little nuggets, you're right. They haven't really shown themselves connected. It is very small in the cast. And I do agree that they're presenting really cool idea. So Jack Pugh, shout out one of my co-hosts from Reckless Rebellion. We feel very similar in our rating. He's lower than I am for sure, but like overall, we agree that this has great ideas. They're just not executing it as well as they're just not. He's like, they're not executing it well. I'm like, I don't think they're executing it as well as they could if they were let go. Like if they were, I like to say Disney Plus, let your creators cook. Don't put them in a chain. Don't hold them to a small amount of runtime. You know, I think that, you know, Mando has done pretty well with their time. And I feel like they let him write however he wants. He's like, oh, okay, this turned out to be a 38-page script. Oh, this one's a 50-page script. Like, sure. Ahsoka, I feel like was the only show that was very similar in their time run. You know, I felt like that was a very consistent way. This one has also been consistent in the worst way of like, you know, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 40 minutes, 34, 34, 38. What has this one been? Oh no, last week was also 34. So 34. This one I think is supposed to be 40 something. And next week's also supposed to be 40 something. And I'm like, but what if we just didn't do that and gave it an hour? Here's 60 minutes. You can be less than that. You can be more than that, but keep it within a 10-minute range of 60 minutes. 50 to 70 minutes. If we got that consistently from this show, I feel like we'd feel a lot different. And I don't think that's the creator's fault, because there's a lot of little things like you've talked about. We didn't get enough time with Torbin. We didn't get enough time with Jecki. We didn't get enough time with Yord. We didn't get enough time with Kalnaka because of time constraints. This is Disney Plus. Why are we limiting things to time constraints? That is where I keep coming back to with being very, very annoyed, like on a whole different level.
I want to say, like, with it, I've got two sort of comments on that, which is, one is what's frustrating is like the Bad Batch is so good and the animated stuff is still really good. So it's not like they don't have the capacity to do so. And even though I had my issue with Ahsoka, it felt like pretty much everything apart from my opinion, anything about Sabine, I feel like she was a complete misfire in that. But aside from that, the show, although I didn't think it was amazing, and I don't have much rewatchability apart from anything Ezra is doing. And a bit of the fight. Anything Ezra and Baylan Skoll were doing for me is the highlight of that show. Everything else I wasn't as fussed on, but I still enjoyed the show as a whole. And I have enjoyed Acolyte. I have been enjoying that. But I feel like Acolyte is suffering from, it's two in between, as we're both kind of saying, with almost everything. It's two on the fence of two quite crucial ideas, and it's not leaning on one or the other. And I feel like this show had Obi-Wan Kenobi syndrome, which is either it should be a tight movie, which would just be about, it would literally just, like, they'd cut short the flashbacky stuff, and it would be a much more central tale about twins and the stranger, that kind of, just that insular bit, like none of the flashbacky stuff almost, or very slithers of it, just kind of hinting at it, and just a really quite intense, action-driven movie where there's quite a lot of characters, but you see a lot of them dying things, but it focuses on the four characters of kind of, Soul, the stranger, and then the twins. Yeah. Or you expand it, make it big and grand, like House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, that kind of thing, where you go, let's have really big episodes. Let's have, longer episodes. Let's have real time to live with these characters. That's why why the Clone Wars work so well with all these little characters. You got like more Kit Fisto, like on-screen dialogue and like, not quite character development, but you knew who Kit Fisto was. You knew who Quinlan Vos was, with them only being in like a 2 or 3 episode arc, because you had in a 2 or 3 episode of arc of Clone Wars, that's about an hour or so, give or take, of content. And if they're talking a quarter of that, that's like a 15-minute straight thing of one character. And it felt like in this, none of the characters have had really enough time to shine, except for Soul to a degree, even though he's uneven, and the stranger, even though he's not had that much screen time. So it's like they've got lots of undeveloped characters that a lot of them feel like you've just got two halves of a character. You should make them one, or you expand them. And that's the thing that's frustrating me, is that I am enjoying the show, but this especially episode just felt quite anticlimactic as well. And I'm like, how are they going to make the next episode wrap everything up and be amazing? Because, Kenobi, I think Kenobi should have been a movie. I think it should have been done in one sitting, cut all the Reva stuff back, would have been great. Or expand on the Reva stuff and make her turn at the end make sense. Like, I'm fine with elements. I like some of the Leia stuff. I thought it was cool. But there's certain elements where I'm like, expand more or strip back. Yeah. Not just putting things in for the sake of it. That's kind of, unfortunately, it's just over and underdone.
No, I
burnt on the edges, but raw on the inside.
Yeah, and sometimes that's good, like a good tuna steak, right? But this is not a tuna steak. This isn't a tuna steak at all, man. And that's what's super duper duper annoying. Yeah, I'm looking at the runtimes here, and so we've got, let's just remove, we'll call it
5, 6, well, probably 6 or 7 minutes, I'd say, for credits.
Yeah,
and the intro.
I'll just remove 6 minutes from each of these really quick. So we got 37 plus 33 plus 39 plus 29. Yep, that checks out for day. Plus 29 for night. Plus 25. Delete that. Plus 35 for 6, and plus 38 for 7. So we're at 240 minutes of screen time right now.
So that's 4 hours.
2 hours. No, yeah, you're right. It's 4 hours. My bad. I did bad math. Because, like, yeah, I know. Yeah, because 4, 5, and 6, when you watch them together, it's like 92 minutes. So we're at 4 hours right now, and then next week. So if next week's an hour, we get 5 hours. If you make this 8 hours, it's vastly different.
Mm-hmm.
It's vastly different. And that's been my biggest problem is the runtimes of these shows. And I think that's the Disney era. Like, and let me rephrase that. That is a Disney problem. I don't know. I mean, it's been specific with Lucasfilm, especially, but you know, like there's a lot of like Marvel Studios episodes that they vary in length too, but I feel like those more often than not fit with what the story is doing. Like what that episode needs is done in that episode time.
They feel like a full episode, like a start and a finish. Whereas this feels like like with Kenobi, you've almost got one straight story and someone's just gone in with a knife and cut it randomly.
Yeah.
Whereas Mando is like, here's episodes, here's little circles we put together, and it makes a string of a story. This feels like we've got a cube and we've just sliced random bits, so the episode ends and it's like, what?
Yeah, and it's that's the problem. Like I feel we're getting 8 episodes and we're might hit 5 hours. If we had. And that's the problem. Like, why do it that way? Why not just make hour-long episodes and do 4? Do a miniseries. Do 6 at hour long. I mean, God, we're going to be less than... I would be happy with 6 episodes at an hour apiece because we're not even going to get to 6 hours on this series, period. Point blank. And that's what I think is a problem because there's so much stuff here. There's so much bone and not enough meat. You know, and that's a problem because you're not able to enjoy the meal that we're being given. And it sucks because I think Leslie Headland is doing great. I want her to do more Star Wars stuff. I feel like if they took the handcuffs off of her, she'd be able to murder some shit like episode 5. Yeah. So, you know, I'm seeing that Boba Fett finale was 62 minutes. The Andor finale was 57 minutes. So I'm hoping that might be the case for this finale of Acolyte next week. But I don't know if I have faith for that happening. You know what I'm saying? Which is so damn incredibly depressing because there's so much to be done. I feel like in the episode. Because there's a lot of questions that people have. For me, I'm focused on like who's killing Soul.
Yep.
And do both twins live? And then also, does Qimir live? Or does a Sith master come in and treat him as if he's nothing more than a pawn? Because talk about being thrown away. I think he's talking about his master throwing him away or leaving him to die, you know, kind of thing. So it's just like like he's mad and they're playing the Kylo Ren theme and they say that that's going to be a reason. There's a reason for that and it will be explained. They played it in this week's episode with Kaunaka and Torbin fighting, or maybe it was Kaunaka and Soul, but in that fight, they played it. And I thought they played it earlier when May dropped the fire, but I don't know if I'm misreading that at all, but I thought they played it there. So I'm like, is it all about being manipulated? Like, are they using that theme to show a manipulation happening? Like what does it mean? What do you mean? You know, I'm Jennifer Lawrence in Hot Things or Hot Wings or whatever. I'm like, what do you mean? What does that mean? What do you mean? I feel like that right now. Cause I'm just like, give me some kind of resolution. And they say it's going to have a definitive ending. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, now I don't have any faith that it's going to have a definitive ending.
I was going to ask you about that. What do you think you'd want in this ending? And how do you think it could kind of, because you and I discussed in messaging and stuff that we have concerns about there being a season 2. In a sense that obviously we want more Star Wars. Even this show that I think is a misfire, I think it has a lot of good stuff in it. I think, you know, am I going to be rewatching the whole series again? Unlikely. Am I going to rewatch the episode 5 again? Yes, 100%. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But I don't want soundbite Star Wars. I want to watch whole experiences. I like watching the prequels, especially Revenge of the Sith, because the whole movie's a ride. It's not all perfect, but the good bits are the highs are so incredibly high, they outweigh the lows by a long shot. And I feel like this show does. The highs of this show, mainly in episode 5, for me personally, do outweigh, and the lore stuff from like episode 3 and things like that, do outweigh the bad. But the problem is with me is I would almost forgive it if it was kind of bad, like prequel bad, which is, overtly terrible dialogue and really annoying characters that don't fit. I'd almost understand that more because that's like Lucas trying and failing. This feels like they've just kind of half tried, and I'm like mad that it's not worse. Do you know what I mean? Like the bad bits aren't bad. They're just really bland. Most of the people I know who've spoken about the show, whether they're massive Star Wars fans or not, they've all gone, I'm enjoying parts, but it's not, I'm just kind of neutral. Like Megan says that she's just lukewarm to it. And I'm like, I would as much as I dislike some of the discourse with Star Wars, and especially the fandom menace, people being mean and bigoted and all that shit. Aside from that, I like having debates with people about the series and how divisive they can be. Things like Kenobi was very divisive. Last Jedi, I love it, but it's very divisive. And I like hearing from Star Wars fans who aren't a fan of Last Jedi, but we can have a cool discussion. With Acolyte, I feel like the majority of Star Wars fans are like, who aren't just going in intentionally hating it, are all kind of at like between a 4 out of 10 and like a 7 max. We're all in that space where the overall series is like, if you take out episode 5, the series drops down by several notches, but that bit is so cool, it's undeniable. Like the prequels, The Phantom Menace, best bits Duel of Fates. Attack of the Clones, best fits all on Geonosis. Like there's all these bits where Return of the Jedi is, Revenge of the Sith is more consistent throughout. It's got a lot of cool bits, but the end is still the pinnacle. But you're like, I want there to be more of something. So I wonder, how do you think this show is going to definitively end? Because it's bothering me.
Yeah, no, honestly, when it started, I was like, oh, the bad guys are going to get taken out by the Sith. And I think that could still happen. And I think that would be a huge mistake because Qimir is awesome. Mm-hmm. Like, Qimir is so good that I've been looking up Hakama pants for 2 weeks now, trying to get like the perfect one so I can try and cosplay this because I just love the look. It is like half samurai with the waist down, and then the top is like Dragon Ball Z and Jedi and samurai all mixed in one. And it's like, dude, like, yes, I'm
Star Wars Visions.
Yeah, it's Star Wars Visions. I'm like, I'm vibing with that. I'm so vibing with the sleeveless thing. I don't even need the cape, man. Screw the cape. Screw the mask. Although I want the mask. I can't lie. I could quote the Joker in that thing and have so much fun. But I want it to definitively end. And, that planet they're on is rumored to be, it's not rumored, but it's believed to be by a lot of fans, Baldemnik. Which, if you read the Darth Plagueis book, that's where Plagueis kills Tenebris.
Oh, so there's in the caverns and stuff. Oh,
yeah, so there's a chance that Chimir's not actually a Sith, but considering he's called himself a Sith in interviews, I think he is a Sith. Is he Plagueis? Maybe. I don't think they've got anything in canon calling him a moon. I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. Could he be Tenebris? Maybe. Could he be an acolyte of one of them? Could he be a former apprentice? There's a lot of questions I have. If they answer at least some of his backstory, I would be happy. I have a bad feeling that might be safe for any potential season 2. Especially now after this week, like in terms of the main mystery, like Osha has to learn, May has to learn, they have to react. There has to be some kind of confrontation. Soul, in my opinion, has to die because no good people can learn about it. And I think that will lead to, are you ready for this? Osha killing May. Because she's going to be like, you tried to kill me, May. And she's like, no, I didn't, Mother Coral, by the way, like, what a dick move, Mother Coral. But like, I think Osha will kill May as the final moment. And then, will that kill her? Now there's the question of the connection between the two. They are one consciousness split into two is what they've said. Or no, one being split into two consciousness. So like, that's really cool. That's interesting. What happens when one of them dies? because we thought that happened, but it didn't. Is there any actual brainwashing? Has there been any memories removed? Osha seems to have brainwashed herself. She's very much lying to herself. Like Soul has been lying to herself, like to himself. May has been honest. Qimir lying. So it's really interesting to see how it goes. I would love for Osha to kill Soul and May. I think that would be really cool. I think that would be, for most people, unexpected. Obviously, I'm not expecting it, but like I see it on the wall. I've been seeing Osha turning bad since episode 3.
I've been saying the same thing. They're going to do the old switcheroo from, it was either episode 1, 2, or 3 when I did the discussion show. I was like, they're going to do the switcheroo.
Yeah. Cause, in 3, I'm like, oh, this child is obviously May. Oh no, it's Osha? Well, that's weird. You don't expect that. Oh, they're like super opposite. Okay. Well, what is going to be like her downfall? Oh, she was lied to. Boom. Okay. We saw how that worked for Anakin. Great. Except he believes I don't know really if he was believing a lie. I mean, Plagueis was a dude that did some stuff. So, but I think that would be really cool. And Qimir is the one where I'm like, I hope he doesn't die.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a feeling because it's been mentioned by Hedlund that there are 2 Sith. So either Osha becomes a Sith and we get Sith names, or a Sith comes in and kills some people.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be really interesting if Tenebris and Plagueis both showed up at the end of this season, and that's the start of the Darth Plagueis book. Like, dude, that would be sick.
But they'd have to either recanonize Plagueis or release a new story about Plagueis or tackle it in Acolyte Series 2. And would you want that, or would you like the Plagueis stuff kind of being the book Plagueis? Because it is amazing, that book.
Yeah, no, it is totally amazing. I would say, yeah, I'm trying to remember when that came out, the Plagueis book. What year? It was after Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, it was after Sith, I think.
Well, I mean, there are so many other books and stories and stuff that have already gone against that book. Specifically, all the Padme books by E.K. Johnston.
Okay, I've not read those.
Yeah, so as we get closer to the Phantom Menace stuff, that's when it's like off, because she's older. She's actually a senator's age. She doesn't run for queen on her own, and there's a lot of little things that are placed around there. But there's a lot in there that it totally works. It's pretty cool to see. I would enjoy. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, dude. I would love for them to tackle like straight up Sith shit.
That's what I want
in Acolyte season 2. I was hoping we were gonna get that in this season. And they're like, oh, it's a murder mystery and it's delving in. It's kind of like archaeology, and then it's not archaeology, which is kind of a bummer. I thought we were going to get like a dark Indiana Jones. That was also when it was announced in 2020 Investors Day or whatever that was. So long time ago. So I would like more Sith shit. I feel like, people are like, oh, it's cool when they're mysterious. You have 1,000 years of mystery. Give me some of the other side. We already see how everyone's going after Qimir. Mm-hmm. It would be really awesome if Qimir turned out to be Plagueis. And the reason he's on that planet at all is because he already killed Tenebris and is looking for his man. In the book, he doesn't get an apprentice until he meets Palpatine.
Yeah, and he's quite old at that point as well, isn't he? Like when he gets killed by Palps.
Palpatine's a teenager, I think.
And when he gets killed by Palps, he's in his like 80s or 90s, and he's like super old. He might even be older than that.
Yeah, he dies essentially the same day that Palpatine gets elected as Chancellor.
Yeah,
he kills him that night. So, or maybe it's the night before the vote is official. Kind of thing.
It's like right at the end. It's kind of like with Phantom Menace. There's a bit of crossover, isn't there? Just that little, that little bit. Yeah, I mean, I would love. Like, I'm not a fan of. I'm fine with them releasing canon content that disputes Legends. That's the point of the canon resetting. But what I don't like is the idea. A lot of people keep going, "Oh my god, these books are so good. I want them to adapt them," and I'm like, no. I don't
No.
want canon books being adapted. Like, I love the High Republic books, but a series, unless you do it literally verbatim, which would cost so much money and waste so much time, and you probably wouldn't quite be able to do it justice anyway. I want you to do supporting content around it. Would I love an animated High Republic series about new Jedi, or even Jedi that have been like mentioned in passing with nothing else about them in those books, or even if they haven't been mentioned and there's reasons for it? I'd like to see a story of characters around the High Republic era, around those books, but not directly in the middle of the action, like reacting to stuff happening and just having like an Andor kind of situation where there's major galactic events kind of happening around them, which they are being affected by, but they're not like at the front lines of everything. I would like that from the High Republic if they did an animated series of it. But like, when it comes to dark side stuff, live action, I'm like, I want, they've been loosely teasing about going back to, the old Sith and things like that. And I think they're holding that close to their chest. I don't think we're going to see that for 5-10 years. But I want the dark side stuff. I want the Sith stuff. I want them to go full ham with it. I want to see live screen lightsaber bleeding. What we got in like Jedi Survival, we got like pretty close to that. We get it in the Vader comics. I love all that. And the Kylo Ren comics. I love all that. But I want this show. I'm with you. I don't want Qimir to die. Oh, I think Sol has to die. And then the question really, the last question, then we'll wrap up, is with all of our theories of what we think is going to happen and what we kind of want to happen, the question remains, what point is Vernestra? She just feels like such a loose end. Any prediction of what's going to happen next episode, I'm just like, I can't see where she could organically fit in without them trying to intentionally make this some sort of cliffhanger. Or her being framed, like her killing like Qimir or something, or Sol kills Qimir and then she kills him. But she seems to not suspect Sol in the same way that other Padawan did. So I'm just like, I don't.
Or did she?
But this is what I mean. I don't know. She's not enough of anything.
I know. Yeah. Where does I've lost respect. She's Vern now. Damn it.
Yeah.
Mama Vern. Where's Mama Vern gonna fit? I think she will end up on whatever planet it is that she's going to. I mean, people are like, she's a Sith Lord. And I'm like, I don't want that.
No.
Like, if she left the Jedi Order and became a Sith Lord, sure. But I don't want a Sith Lord being inside the Jedi and screwing them up. Like, because you could take them down even easier than the Senate. I'm sorry, than the Senate. So I would like for her to show up on the planet. And honestly, all I need from her is showing up, seeing May and Sol dead, and that's it. And then she goes back and says, Sol killed May and May killed him in the fight. Or goes back and says, no. I mean, she's got to say something. Because that one kid, Moog, is like, you're right. He's like, Master Sol fell? And she's like, that's a strong accusation. But she's also like, I don't know if he didn't. But she's talking like, oh, I feel like May is a part of a deeper plan. A bigger part of her master's deeper plan to tip the scales. So she knows enough to where I feel like she's got to definitively know if this is tipping the scales or not. And if it comes down to, it could come down, simply put, to Qimir leaving or dying or whatever, and Osha. And here's the Knights of Ren theory. I think Osha is going to be the first Knight of Ren. She is going to be like, fuck the Sith, fuck the Jedi. It's over. She can sit there and stay. Like, she might make an agreement with Qimir and be like, I don't want to join you. I want to do my own thing, but I will cover for you. And he might even watch that happen. She just straight lies to the Jedi. And as an acolyte, oh my God, she could just become an acolyte. And that's where the Knights of Ren. I don't know, man. I just want Osha to kill everybody. That's what I want. She deserves revenge. But I think Vern is the one who's going to go back to the council. I think she's set up to go back and tell the council and everyone, like, they've all died. It was this person to take them off of the Sith. I think that's her ultimate plot point. And if it's more than that, I think I'll be happy if it's more than that. If it is that, I'll be like, all right, fine, whatever.
If
you know?
she only does that, I'd be like, why even bring out the lightsaber whip? So I mean, why even have her in it?
Yeah. I want her to have been Qimir's master.
That
Or
would be cool.
and really quick, when he says a really long time ago, now we know that Osha was not in the Jedi Order until 10 years prior, or no, 16 years prior to this moment.
But she left 6 years to that, so there's a 10-year period.
So there's a 10-year period where she was there. Yeah. She, Qimir, we're going to assume that he's 36 years old because Manny Jacinto is 36. Was Qimir a Jedi before that time and, got in a fight or whatever? Or is Qimir older than we think? What do you think?
I think he's older. I don't think he's like 80, but I think he's like mid-40s, maybe even 50, because they do push that quite a lot with Star Wars. They've got like so many characters, like Samuel L. Jackson's character, I think he's in like late 50s or something at the time. But I don't know if they just kind of sometimes choose the actor age.
Yeah.
But I think, Jedi can kind of live, it's like the Dumbledore effect. Dumbledore is, I think he's like 100 or something when he dies. So I like where Jedi can live a bit longer. Like, a human lives about 100 years. But if you've got a really strong Jedi in the Force who's a human, he could live to 110, 120. Or they could live to that age, rather. And I think there's a connection there. I wouldn't mind it being Vernestra confronting Qimir and then kind of almost getting him and him escaping, and then her having a moment and being like, I basically need to... she goes to the council, tell them nothing's wrong, but that she needs some time away. And then she goes on like a single crusade to track them down. And that's kind of series 2. And that kind of maybe draws the attention of the Sith or something like that. And that would be almost the thing we were promised with a dark side mystery thriller. And then Vernestra could have her character flushed out. We could mainly get some flashbacks, get a live action Stellan, get some decent references to her trauma of the High Republic books and things to tease people to read them, but also to actually make it an important plot point, because she's one of the only beings that have been alive that entire time, as well as Yoda and, Maz Kanata and etc. But like, have that connection, and even have her have a conversation with Yoda talking about the trauma of Starlight, something like that. But have her leave the Order, and season 2 is just her kind of trying to chase them down and falling deeper and deeper into like chasing them. Like, I would be fine with that. I just want her to have something to do, and I want series 1 to finish and be like a complete story. But I also feel like there's so many threads that they've not really explained. If they do kind of go, we're done with everything, it feels like it would be a rush. But my concern is also because I keep hearing rumors they've got plans of like things they could write for 2 series or more. And I'm like, but then it feels like you're not doing what Andor did, which is lots of complete stories with one through character. What you're kind of doing is stretching out a story that should really be more concise. That's unfortunately why I'm falling on it.
Yeah, and I do like that, because they definitely have mentioned, she's like, I got 4 or 5 mysteries that could work for a season 2. Like, I've got ideas on what to do in a season 2, which doesn't sound like it's definitive. She doesn't have a plan, which sounds like, and she said there is a definitive ending, and maybe that's just the twins. That would suck. And if it's just the twins, then, I mean, unless, Osha kills everybody, that's pretty definitive. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I definitely hoping they land the plane. And if they land the plane, that could retroactively make every other episode better. If they tie certain things in and make it make sense, great. Will that happen? I hope. I don't know. But there's a lot of like, what I love is there's just so much unreliable narrator that I think that's a problem that people are having with this show, because they're not aware it's an unreliable narrator. Episode 3 is all from Osha. Yeah. This episode is all from Soul. They conflict hardcore, but because they conflict hardcore, May also misquotes her mother about the Ascension and what Ascension means. She makes it worse than it is. Like, everyone has to face fear and everyone has to sacrifice. Everyone has to be sacrificed, for the greater good or something like that. And that's not at all what it is. It's like, we have to sacrifice a part of ourselves for the role we're meant to play, for our destiny, So like, that freaks the Jedi out, aka Soul. So there's a lot of little nuggets like that it's like, oh, very interesting. So I'm wondering what the next interesting thing is going to be, and will it get wrapped up in the same episode?
I think my conclusion when we finish this is with Acolyte. I hope next episode is going to be good, but I have a suspicion it will be. Realistically, we don't rewatch the show very much. We rewatch the episode 5 because it's phenomenal, and I think what the best thing that's going to come out of this, aside from that incredible episode 5, which is phenomenal, some of the best stars we've got, I think when the High Republic's over, if some of the High Republic authors tackle Acolyte High Republic, because I think if you got some books surrounding like what happened before the Acolyte series and what happens after, I'd love a book about maybe Soul a bit, or like even a short story collection with more details about each of these characters, like what they were doing before or after. Like I'd be fine with like a Yord Fandir story of his interactions with Osha, like a young adult book or something. I would like to see more expanded content, because unfortunately this show just isn't giving enough, and I don't think any other series is going to build off this. It's going to be its own thing, but I feel like there's going to be supporting content coming out. There's already the Kaonaka one-shot, which I'm interested by, but I feel like I need more. I want more from the Acolyte, and I wish there was more of it, because I feel like it has potential. But yeah. But Thomas, it's been delightful having you speak Styles. We could talk another 2 hours easy, but we have to finish at some point. So we've already touched upon Reckless Rebellion, but give us the plug. Give us the proper plug for Reckless Rebellion and anything else you got on and your social media, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, we Reckless Rebellion, we're a podcast with enough chaotic energy to fuel a Death Star. We talk about all the wars in the stars, and we have a lot of war on our own episodes. We are chaotic. We are Star Wars fans. We love Star Wars intently and passionately, and we have different views on how it is, because we all view art differently. Art is so subjective. It's a beautiful thing. We are on every week. We record every week. We're covering the Acolyte right now. When we're done with the Acolyte, we have literally no idea what we're going to do. So that's awesome, because we have a dead period of, I don't know, what is that, 6 months until Skeleton Crew may or may not come out? Who the hell knows? But we do a lot of rewatches and a lot of fun things, playing games, doing drafts, causing chaos. That is what we do over at Reckless Rebellion. You can find us on all podcasting platforms. Reckless Rebellion, RECKLESS Rebellion. And you can find us on Twitter at Reckless Rebels, RECKLESSREBELS. And I believe that is the same tag over on Instagram, which just started time of recording tomorrow, Thursday, July 11th. So if you want to get a little sneak peek at the silliness that we get up to, there's going to be some stuff there. You can find me on all social media at TC Rochester Act. That is TCROCHESTERACT. Over on Twitter, I mostly just talk about Star Wars, man, and bitch about the fandom menace at times. I've just been avoiding a lot of stuff. I mean, my friends did a podcast and recorded it today, and I had to message. I was like, do you guys talk about anything positive? Like, I'm going to be honest, hand on my heart, barely. And I was like, I can't listen to your podcast today. Then, like, I'm already upset. I'm annoyed, and I'm annoyed with how I feel about the episode. I'm annoyed with where we're at. And I know people are just going to extrapolate and pick apart things. And it was said to me last night, it's like, I'm being very nitpicky, and that's what we do with things we don't like. And I'm like, yes, you should nitpick the things out that are good and talk about those also. Cause I was told this week, well, if you only talk about good things, then I can't trust your opinion. And I'm like, if you only talk about bad things, I can't trust your opinion. Oh, wow. So that is it. I try to stay positive, except for the Dallas Cowboys. I love them so much. I just hate our owner. So I bitch about that a lot on our show, but that is me and the rebellion in a nutshell.
Amazing stuff. Well, I appeared on Reckless Rebellion speaking with yourself and a fellow guest about the Thrawn trilogy. That was in August last year, so there's a link to that in the description. Thomas was also on Genuine Chit-Chat, and I think I said it earlier, but episode 211, that was out in October 2023, and we spoke about the soul and prophetic dreams and all kinds of cool stuff like that. And we will collaborate again when there's other Star Wars content coming out, like when Skeleton Crew does, potentially Ahsoka Series 2, lots of other stuff. If there's an Acolyte Series 2, we'll connect. But I think it's that we are both generally positive Star Wars fans. We try our best, but unfortunately there are certain shows that just don't land as much as they could have done. Acolyte's one. I'm still positive. I still enjoyed it, but yeah, there's just it's not quite where it should be, in my opinion, of where we are with Star Wars. And unfortunately, my biggest issue is there was so much unwarranted hate before this came out. And I was so hoping it was going to be like an Andor show, to be like, you know what, fuck all of you. You're all wrong. Your misogyny and your horrible, like all the toxicity around it is all bullshit, because this show is amazing. And unfortunately, this show is not as amazing as it should be. It has an amazing episode and then a lot of middling bits. And it's unfortunately making it hard to defend in a way that with Andor and other amazing Star Wars content, you can go, if you're hating on this overtly, you just hate Star Wars as a whole. You can be critical, but you're hating. But when a show is like this, I'm like, unfortunately, although I hate all the bigotry and the toxic fandom, there's a lot of very valid negative criticism about these shows, which just gives the toxic side even more weight, because even when us positive people are pointing out quite big issues with the show, it makes it very difficult. So it's quite upsetting in that regard that it got attacked so much before and hasn't landed hard enough to really fully defend against a lot of those criticisms, which is upsetting. So fingers crossed episode 8 will be a big actiony episode. I know action's not everything, plot's important, but I would be fine. The plot unfortunately isn't landing for me quite as hard as it should. So I'm like, let's just go full on dark side action stuff. That would be for me. But you can find me at Genuine Chit-Chat on all the social media places. You're listening to this show, wherever it is. And yeah, you could just find out what I'm doing in all the different places. Lots of Star Wars talk, Star Wars authors, and lots of discussion shows. So, Thomas, thanks again for coming on. Friends, thank you for tuning in. And we'll end the show as we always do. May the Force be with you.